Hello Jolly Dollies, hope you're well. I'm Navi, an adult doll collector. Welcome to my channel, Boundary Roots. So I've been working on a project for you guys, and I started about a week or so ago. And this was an idea that originated from the fabulous Miss Toya at My Froggy Stuff. I had been a fan of hers for a really long time, and she was the one that started my journey into being a crafter. So I would like to say a big what's up to her, because she is an amazing crafter and I admired her for so long. And she came up with the idea of, using packaging, doll packaging, in order to create some backgrounds. And I think that's a great idea, especially when recycling is involved. So I've been working on my own display for my He-Man, She-Ra, and the other girl. Can't remember her name now. Tila, sorry. You know me, I'm a bit scattered. So I've started let me put it to you this way. I started recording the video, and I did all the steps as I was going to do, how I did it, kind of background and everything. Alas, last week my phone was stolen off my hands whilst I was on my lunch break, and it was rather silly because I was watching something on my phone and waiting for the traffic lights to change, and 1 minute my phone is in my hand, the next minute my phone is gone. So I've lost all the footage for the videos that I was going to make for you guys, and that was quite upsetting. Not just the fact that I lost my phone that had everything in there, and yeah, so that was not something that I wanted. I don't think anyone deserves that. But if you live in the UK and if you live in central London, or if you work in central London, please let this be a warning to you. We always think it's not going to happen to us. We've seen it 1,000 times, and it's not just in London, it's everywhere, unfortunately. Be aware that people are watching us, okay? Be aware that at any given moment you might become a victim to someone just snatching the phone off your hand, because the person that did it was on a bike, on a pedal bike, or on a push bike, and he just came out of nowhere and snatched my phone. I wasn't paying attention. That I feel guilty for allowing myself to become so distracted because I was watching something on I was watching like a little short on Instagram, and my phone was snatched off my hand. So please be careful when you're out there. Protect your phones, protect your identity, because there's so much things that we keep in our phones. So yeah, let this be a warning to you guys. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. Right, with that said, I wasn't able to retrieve the last videos that I did. I was working on this scene to display my He-Man figures, and what I did, I combined He-Man's box and Tila's box onto one of the Amazon shipping boxes, so that's in the back to support it. So I glued it together. So the little holes, I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but you know the little cuts, like these ones, I started by putting some sellotape on them in the back, and then I glued it together with the shipping box that they sent from Amazon. Not the doll box, but the box that the Amazon boxes. I'm pretty sure you guys know which ones I'm talking about. Since I have plenty of those and I keep mine, I thought, okay, the backdrop that Toya did was quite good, so I wanted to do my own. So what I did then, once I glued the two boxes together to create the background. I then went and got some more boxes, and I just cut out some rock shapes out of them, and I glued them directly onto, I hot glued them directly onto the scene, because the scene had like the remnants of the end of the boxes. So I thought, let me just do my own thing with this backdrop. So I created some rocks. I then paper mache them. So I used tissue paper with PVA glue, and I just made and I just glued it onto the cardboard, and then I painted it. I started with a red paint. So I started with this red, just normal Hobby World paint, and then I went over it with dark brown. So I got some acrylic, burnt umber acrylic paint, and I painted over the red. And then I just simply used some orange and some yellow and some red, and I just did dry brushing with a sponge. So that's how I created it. I also created a little stand for them, like a little rock. Well, it's another box. I put some toilet rolls in the box. So this is one of the shipper boxes. And I used the paper rolls just to give stability to that side. And then I created some rocks out of the cardboard. And then I painted it with the brown. And then I used red and yellow and orange, to create a bit of texture onto the rock. And what I'm going to do next, I've cut some more cardboard, because I'm going to put this on the sides of, so it creates like a, I believe that Toya calls them shadow boxes. So it's about 10 and a 1 inch shadow box that I'm going to create. So it does have a floor. Let me just bring you guys down a bit if I can. So it does have a floor over there. So I'm just going to use 2 of these. I believe that they are 10 by, well, the backdrop is quite big. I'll then add the numbers, but I'm going to cut another one of these, and then I'll show you guys how I did my rocks and how I did the tissue paper and all of that. Okay, so let's get started. All right, Jolly. So here I have the two sides for the shadow box, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some more cardboard, and I'm going to make some rocks, and then I'm going to paper mache them. Okay, so for the rocks, all I do, Dollies, is I grab my scissors and I just cut some jagged pieces like so. Nothing too complicated. Then I'll go to the other side and do the same. If I just turn it around, I can just, might not be the best camera work here, but I'm sure you'll get the gist of what I'm doing. Oh, and I move camera. I'm doing this in my living room table because it's the only space I can actually cut. So there's one. And all I do is then get it together. I'll just match them, and then I'll just do a few layers. I'm not going to do too many layers. I'm just going to do a few layers of cardboard and be back in a minute. So Jollies, I have now cut 2, and what I did, I put the other one that I just cut on top, underneath the other one, the first one, because then that creates some let me see if I can show you. Once I put them together, then that creates some layers, and I also cut off a bit on the top of the first layer that I did, because then that creates some different shapes and stuff. And then I'm going to do one for this side, and we can also, this is a great way to recycle your cardboard. We can also add a couple of layers on this side. We can save the one that we already did earlier, but I'm going to cut another bigger piece to put here, and then I'll add this one on top. Okay, if that makes sense. So to have something kind of like that, if that makes sense. So just add your own layers of cardboard. You can even add just a few more underneath, just give it a bit more texture. You know, you can add just a couple. If the bottom is flat, just cut it at an angle, and you can just add a few more, because that will all add to the texture as you paper mache it, if that makes sense. So you can just put a few more if you want. For this project, I'm going to take these out because I don't think we need them, because once I've added paper mache, I'm going to put quite a lot of texture on it, and sometimes if you add too many rocks, it just gives you extra work. And these are going to go on the sides, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So that's one done. I'm going to hot glue these in place, and then we'll do the paper mache. All right, Jollies, I have now glued it on to, I glued all the pieces, and now I'm going to start doing the paper mache. So I've got some PVA, multi-purpose non-toxic PVA glue. I have a brush, and I have some tissue paper. So how I'm going to do this is, so I'm just going to drizzle one of the pieces with as much glue as possible. It's things are not always easy to do on camera, Dollies. So I am just going to squirt my glue like so onto the piece. So these are rather large pieces, so I'm going to then start with my brush, and I'll just dab on it. Obviously we don't want to put too much glue and soak it, because then it will get soggy. So I'm going to put as much as needed, like so. And I'll just carry on adding glue, and once I've done that, I'll be right back. It is also important to go around these edges here and just make sure that they are covered. One tip that I will give is that sometimes it's good to wet your brush, because PVA glue can be quite thick. So if you wet your brush, that will give you a bit more it will make it easier to spread the glue. Obviously I didn't do it this time, but sometimes I do that and it helps. Obviously don't have it like dripping wet, because then it will make the cardboard too soggy. But just go around all those nooks and crannies, because then the tissue paper will stick on better. Just make sure that all your surfaces have plenty of glue without making it too soggy. So I'm just going around here, and once I'm satisfied with it, we'll start doing the tissue paper. Okay, now that I'm happy with how much glue I've put on, I'm going to start doing the tissue paper. Also, don't forget to do your edges along, because what I tend to do, once I applied all my tissue paper, I then wrap it on the inside, but not on the sides that I'm going to glue to the other piece, if that makes sense. So now we've got our tissue paper. And you can just grab, depending on how big your tissue paper is, you can shred it. Now for video purposes, you can just shred it and apply it on. And now you can make it as wrinkly as possible as you want, because the more wrinkles you add onto your tissue paper, the more texture you're going to get when you do your. And it's important to go around these little pieces in between the layers and just dab your brush in there, just so it shows all that beautiful texture that we've created. And sometimes the tissue paper does rip, but ignore. Sorry, I'm holding my brush with my mouth, Jolly Dollies. It's all very, very, very special here. We do things a certain way in this channel. So all these little pieces, you can just add them on to your existing piece, if that makes sense. And then you just carry on. Now, you could save yourself a lot of trouble and just add a whole sheet of tissue paper. I'm doing it on camera for you, for my Jolly Dollies, so I'm going to show you how you can also do it. And sometimes when you dab your brush into the tissue paper, it creates more texture. And if it rips, that's okay, because you can always put another layer on top. You can just add a bit more tissue paper. And sometimes you can just dab a bit more of the glue you already have in order to create those lovely textures. So I'll get as close to the edge as possible on this side, and I'll just dab my brush onto those in between layers of cardboard, just so when we paint. So now I'll just use this one. I'll just go up here. So the tissue paper just masks all those cardboard layers and just turns into a one piece. So it becomes a bit more seamless. It can be time consuming, but the results are fantastic. So again, I'm just tapping my brush onto those layers, creating some wrinkles, creating some texture. Sometimes you can just pull on your tissue paper to create a bit more ripple. And I will just add another layer on top of this one, because if you add layers of tissue paper, it's going to create different textures as well. So I'm just going to borrow some glue from there, and I'm just going to apply it. Now with paper mache, when you add PVA glue, sometimes the PVA glue acts as a barrier for your paint, so it becomes almost paint proof, but I'll show you that once we get to the painting stage. Okay, so here we go. I might speed this up a bit. So creating some bridges in there. If we get some glue in between. That's going to create like some veins into the cardboard, which makes it more interesting. It'll show up once you dry brush, if that makes sense. So here we go again. Just adding some. This might be not the best camera work here, but I'm trying. I'm trying to find different angles that I can show you how I do my things and so on. And just so it varies, because I've been doing a lot of unboxings, because there's been a lot of dolls coming out. And like I said in the previous video, if you don't unbox, and if you're just starting, if you don't unbox when stuff comes out, you just get lost in the numbers, unfortunately. And I would like to have a bit more of you guys engaging as well, and just joining in my crazy shenanigans here on this channel. As we go, I will try to create more stuff and make it more interesting. Like I said, my phone got stolen. So some of the work that I was already planning, because I had done like a whole video of how I did the backdrop, like how I started with the backdrop for He-Man. And I couldn't recover that video, unfortunately. I did try, but I couldn't get it back. And yeah, funny enough, I got all my pictures back, but my videos, the latest videos that I had, probably didn't upload onto the cloud, or I didn't save them. Silly me. Lesson learned. So yeah, that didn't go to plan. And I had done a whole reroute already, and that didn't save. I had saved it on I'd saved it on CapCut, because I was already editing the video, and I've tried to get my data back from them, and it's just not been easy. So none of my content that I had worked on CapCut is there. I think the first couple of videos, which were really small, showed up, and the rest of my content was absolutely gone. So I'm not sure if I'm going to recover that. So what I intend to do, and I hope you guys enjoy it and come back for that video, which I'll be working on the minute I finish this. I intend to do, I'll use a dummy doll and I'll do exactly, I'll follow all the steps that I did. Sorry, holding my brush in my hand, in my mouth. So I'll use a dummy doll, and I'll go through the steps of my reboot that I did, and then we'll do the final look with both dolls. If it's something you guys want to see, please come back and watch that video. I will really appreciate if you do. So that's how I do my tissue work. Obviously, you can just grab a whole sheet of paper. I'm just going to dab. There's a few wrinkles here. I'm just going to dab on with my brush, just to lay them down onto the project. And we're almost there. So I'll finish this one on camera, and I'll do the other one off camera. And just a little tip, if you're going to put tissue paper on top of tissue paper, just lay back some glue so it sticks, because sometimes it seems like it's going to stick and then it doesn't, and then it starts lifting as you apply your paint. Sometimes paint does reactivate the glue or acts as glue and sticks. So really important to just get those edges done as well, because I normally fold the tissue paper inwards just to make it a bit neater. And that's it. We've got ourselves almost a finished wall. Well, a finished paper mache wall. And then these will have to dry overnight. When they do, I'll show you how I then paint them. So for a project like this, you'll probably need a good 2 sheets of paper, depending on the size of the project. You might need a bit more, you might need a bit less. I hope this is all capturing on camera properly, or I'm doing the best I can. So I hope it turns out okay, because sometimes you see it through the camera. When you go to edit, you go, I was so off camera. So yes, do let me know. I don't know if it's me or if it's something that's off. I hope you guys tell me. But it's very rare that you guys comment on my videos, and I don't understand why. I'm not gonna bite. I don't bite. I'm quite a friendly person. So drop me a comment, drop a like if you're enjoying the content, because that motivates me. I know you shouldn't be motivated by views and likes, but we are at an age where that kind of stuff sometimes is important. And I would like to get some of the Jolly Dollies that watch the videos perspective and see what you guys think, or what I could improve on as well. So do let me know what you think. I know my camera work needs improving. I know that my lighting needs improving, but do let me know what you think of the content, if it's good enough, if it's not. Yeah, don't be shy. So that's it. That's all of it pretty much covered. And once I tend to let it dry overnight. And if I miss, sometimes if you do miss these little bits in between, it doesn't particularly matter, because the paint is going to mask it anyway. It's mainly the edges of the paper, of the cardboard, that we tend to mask, just so it gives you more of a seamless look. Obviously you could use like some texturing technique, like flour or a bit of sand, just to give it that more of a realistic look. Focus. So I'm just going to add a bit more on this little bit here. That's got a lot of texture in there, just so it lays. And I'm going to use another tiny bit of tissue paper just to go on top of it, just to seal it, because that just makes it slightly nicer, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to add a tiny bit more, just so I've got enough paper here that I can then fold inwards. But I allow all of this to dry, and then I fold the edges, or I'll simply cut them depending on how I'm going to lay it. So there you have it. That's one of the sides completely. I'm a perfectionist, so let's add a bit more here. So if you add layers of tissue paper as you go, you can create a really, really nice. That's the beauty of paper mache. You can really work with it and make it give it good texture. I'm going to add a tiny bit more. I'm going to take from there. This side is not really sticking because there's not enough glue on it. But that's what I meant when you lay tissue paper on top of tissue paper. If it doesn't have glue, it won't stick. So I'll let this dry overnight. I'll do the other one off camera as well. And then once it's dry, we'll come back and do painting. Yay! Alright, Dollies. So these two pieces are now dry. And I've got my brush here. And I've got my burnt umber color. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to paint the pieces in brown. I've also got my little container. I'm just going to grab my brown and I'm going to squirt it onto here. It's going to need a good layer of brown, like so. So I'm going to do this all around. You might need 2 coats, but we shall see. So I'm going to paint this and I'll be right back. So Jolly Dollies, first layer of brown paint on both of them. And yes, there is still a bit of the tissue paper coming through, but that's alright because once it dries, I can just start dry brushing. And usually I would do 2 layers, but I'm running out of paint. So I'm running out of this burnt umber paint, so I'm going to just then use my orange and red and yellow and just blend in the colors so it won't even be noticeable. Here's the second one, all painted as well, and some of those bits are going these are the bottom. This is the bottom part of the scene, so once everything is glued together and in place, then I can just give them a little touch up if needed. But I did do the sides. And yes, it's on a coffee cup. It's I put both of them on coffee cups purely because when it's wet and you put it just on its surface, on a flat surface, they do kind of bow. And I noticed that if I rest it on a coffee cup or if I rest it somewhere, it doesn't bow as much because the paint then lays a bit more flat and weighs down these sides and ends. So it's working for me. So that's why I'm balancing them on coffee cups. So once this is dry, we can then start giving it some texture with orange, yellow and red, just to go well with the other bit of the scene that I've already done. So back in a bit. Alright, Jolly Dolly, so now that the brown is dry, I've got some acrylic paint in orange, and I also have a mixed up ready mix paint in yellow. I've got my gloves on and I'm going to grab a little sponge and I'm going to start with the orange. Just gonna get my little dry paint flying around, so I'm going to grab my orange paint and I'm going to dab it. Got some tissue paper here. I'm going to take off the excess, and all I'm doing is just tapping it onto the texture here. take off as much of the excess as possible. Just tapping it as we go. I can always add a bit more brown to it. I'm just going to lightly tap it so all these little textured bits, you can also rub it in a bit more if you want to. You can use a brush, but I thought the sponge would be a lot quicker. I'm just going to keep tapping it onto, and if it gets too concentrated in spots, I can just rub that slightly and that comes off as well. So Jolly Dollies, here we are. This is my coat of orange on to... No, I didn't want to do it bright orange. I just wanted to highlight some of those textures in the tissue paper. And when I got to these little bits here where in between the layers of cardboard, I just rubbed it a bit more so it enhances it slightly. But I didn't want the whole thing to be covered because we're still going to use some red. I forgot my red. So we are still going to use a tiny bit of red here and there. But I did want some of the brown to be shining through because that's what makes it look a bit more realistic. So I'm going to grab some red and I'm just going to dab it in some places like I did with the orange, and then I'll do some yellow as well just to break it down and make it a bit more just to highlight it even more. Alright, I've dry brushed it with some red and I mixed it a little bit with the orange, and in some places I'm just going to add a bit more orange as well just to break it down a bit. Not too much, just very lightly. Almost like when the sun shines through, you can see like different colors in a stone, because stone is not all the same color. So we're just gonna dab some orange, some more orange on here. Yep. Just to stress it a bit more. So I'm going to grab some yellow. I'm just going to dab it in some places, just so to break down the colors a bit more. Okay. This paint's quite thick as well. And there we go. Now this yellow is not very strong, so yeah, I'm just going to dab it here and there because that will take away the intensity of the red and the orange a little bit more. And give that kind of desert looking, dry stone appearance, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna rub it in, because then that breaks down the intensity of the other two colors. Makes it a bit more it doesn't make it like one-dimensional. And in some places I'm just going to dab it, because when it dries it won't dry as clear. So mainly where there's texture, just so it highlights it a bit more. Like so. So just dab it around. Because it's not a strong paint, it doesn't really. We'll just try to mimic as much of a stone texture as possible. If you look at a stone closely, it does have like specks of color that do tend to shine a bit more, especially like the golden tones in a stone. So if we just dab it. So Dollies, now that we have the sides complete, it's time to work on the floor. And I've got some printables that I printed. I just went on Google and I printed red sand. Might look a bit orange, or orange sand, and I'm just going to fill the floor with that red printable, including the top of our stand, and I'll be right back. So here's our floor. It's all laid now. There we go. And I folded it inwards just so it gives it a better finish. And I'm going to Jolly Dollies, are you ready to see the final result? And yes, I put Tila and Shira with some stands just to give them a bit of support on the ground. And let me just bring it out. And this is the final look. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it was worth it. There was a fair amount of work being put into this scene, and yeah, but I think it turned out rather good. I'm trying not to get off frame so it doesn't spoil the magic that much, but I ended up painting some of the floor just to give it a bit more texture and to blend it a bit more with the background. But let me know what your thoughts are on this backdrop for the He-Man, Tila and She-Ra dolls. I think it turned out rather well, so do let me know. I am going to remove the stand just for a minute, just so we can see the full scene with them all on the ground. And there we have it. They're all on the ground. Now, I was going to insert the stands onto the display that I made, that box display. But yeah, I do think it looks rather cool with just them standing in the box itself. They are ready to go and fight the good fight, and they all have the power. So do let me know down in the comments if it was worth it, if you would do something like this, or if you're planning to, all that good stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to stay jolly, dollies. See you later. Bye now.